already did. And Dr. Una showed us some calculations that were just phenomenal. I mean, they were mind-blowing to see how much money you can save if you just do the work, you know? And she gave us 3 steps on how to do that. And today it's all about team. I want to know in the chat if you've ever had a team problem. Let me know if you've ever had a team problem. Hi, Dr. Kemp. Ever had a team problem? Let me know in the chat. If you could just get your team right, it would make such a difference. Not only could you, and many of us have wonderful teams, right? But today we're going to learn how to make your team profitable. Having a wonderful team is one thing, but a profitable team, that's even better. So Dr. Una is going to tell us all that. And I want to congratulate everyone that signed up for the Profitable Private Practice Movement already. Oh my goodness, you don't know what this decision has made for you. There are already so many people that are in that program that are getting results, that are getting more clients, more patients, more referral sources, increasing their revenue. And the wins are amazing, amazing. Dr. V, you have team problems. Well, tonight is for you. Um, and I just want to encourage anyone that's been thinking about it. I'm going to put the link to join in the chat in just a moment. That the profitable private practice movement is just a no-brainer. I mean, one live session with Dr. Una a month at that price point, that by itself, I mean, that by itself is a $10,000 value. And this particular week coming up, for those of us who like to procrastinate, nobody in this room, but there are those who like to procrastinate. If you're thinking about it, I want you to really consider that this coming Thursday, Dr. Una is going to be live, and she's talking about how to make data-driven decisions and use those data-driven decisions to catapult your practice to another level. So it's going to be sensational. I'm looking forward to seeing more of you on there. Um, can you let me know something in the chat? Let me know something that you've learned from the workshop so far that you are implementing. Can let me know in the chat anything that you've learned that you started to implement so far or you will implement between day 1 and day 2. Either something you're going to do with your 90 days, getting more patients, getting more referral sources, or something you're going to do in terms of billing, in terms of making sure you get the right billing codes in there, making sure that your front desk is doing the work that they should do, anything like that. How many of us have made some decisions? Let me know in the chat. Billing. Okay, YouTube channel. Okay, Dr. Machado, you're doing your YouTube channel. Okay, wonderful. Congrats. That's huge. And Dr. Koda's like, oh, I'm doing my billing right. Dr. Dr. Onwako says, I'm going to revamp my YouTube channel after my voice returns. Oh my goodness, please take care of your voice, please. Okay, meet with the biller. Absolutely. Dr. Scott says, I followed up on billing yesterday after the meeting, used an old video I did for my IG post that I was too scared to post, and the response was great, which was so encouraging. Listen, when it comes to videos, no one likes to do videos. No one doing a video is like, oh, I look so great. Oh, I sound so great. You know, there's always that feeling of, did I sound good? Did I do good? What, you know, but when you see videos as a consumer, you're just looking for the content. You see a face you recognize and you want to hear what they have to say. Isn't that how you feel? You don't really care too much about the background. I mean, let's look at some of the reels that we see on social media. A lot of times the background is really bad, you know, or it's not, there's nothing special about it, but we're looking to see the content. So one way you can do this, Dr. Scott, and this is for everyone, this is as a freebie, is that you can make a list of the top 20 questions or the top 10 questions your ideal client has and make videos on that. You know, what are those questions that you hear your clients ask you every day? Those questions that when the minute they say them, you already know, okay, I know they're gonna ask this. You can kind of finish the sentence already. Make videos about that. And and picture that you're talking to your ideal client so that you don't feel so shy. But that is awesome. Dr. Davis says being more direct on my videos, awesome. That means asking for them to work with you. I always want to do a video where you ask them to work with you or come and see you. Come and see me. Awesome. And then Dr. Okuda says the speaker is the expert. Oh, that was so good when Dr. Una dropped that bomb on us. The speaker is the expert. And guess who's the speaker? Everyone in this room. Guess who's the expert? Everyone that's in this room. So you are going to speak more. I am so excited for what we're going to learn tonight. And Dr. Una's here. Dr. Una, blow us away. Tell us what to do with our teams.
Makita says, blow us away. Hi, everyone. Okay, today is day 3, and it's going to be our strongest day, right? We're going to have the big energy. I was so blown away reading all the things that you guys have been doing, revamping your YouTube channel, meeting with the biller, following up with billing, being more direct on videos, all of these things. This is the deal. Okay, I did a 2-hour workshop earlier for a private group, and what I'm about to tell you is what I told them. I'm like, there is nobody you see who is killing it, who is better than you. There's nobody who you see killing it that has, like they have this special thing that you don't have. There's nobody built for business and you're not. It's just that they started doing these things and they started putting in the reps and now they look like geniuses. That's literally what's happening, right? And because you have started, like, I'm so proud of you for starting. You're part of that, right? And those of you who joined the profitable private practice movement, I'm so proud of you, because what you've done is you've set yourself up, you've put yourself in a container for implementation, right? Because what we learned is amazing. It's very obvious that it will work. Now we're going to do it, and we're going to do it long enough so we become really good at it, and we get the results over time, and then everything's going to change. Okay. All right. So let me know in the chat if you're excited about today. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, because it was one of the scariest things for me, and that is all things team. Okay, so if you're excited, let me know, because I am super excited. Dr. Scott is like, yes, excited, exclamation mark. Now, let me tell you why I'm excited about this, right? Because this is something that happens very often in private practices, where you have team members, and you can let me know in the chat if you've had team members like this. You have a day, or you have a series of days that are slow in your private practice, and you're going like, oh my goodness, what is going on? What are we going to do? What is this going to look like down the line? And all of these things, you're trying to see, how do we get patients in? How do we get more people enrolling? All of that stuff. But your team is excited. Your team members actually walk to you and they're like, today was such a good day. It was nice and slow. Please, who has had this experience? And I'm like, here I am going like, we have a problem I need to fix. And my team that's supposed to be with me, we're on the same team, we're on the same page. They're excited. If your team is excited, when you are like, we need to fix something, there is a problem. We're going to fix that problem today. Okay. And the other part is, sometimes we know like, okay, I have a private practice, that means, I should probably have an MA who can work the patients up. I should probably have a front desk person who's answering the phone. Like, I'm getting so stressed out. So that means I should have an office manager. Like, a lot of times that's what we think. And again, I don't know, maybe you guys are like a lot more brilliant than I was, but for me, then I go like, okay, what are these people even supposed to do? So I go Google, what is the role of an MA? And I take that off, I edit it a little, and this is now the role of my MA. And then they do this thing, the role that you got off the internet in your office, and you're mad because you're like, this is not actually what I want. Right? This is not actually what I want. And so imagine being in a position where you're very clear on what you want. You're very clear on how your team helps you serve and earn. You're very clear, like many times people have meetings, like evaluation meetings with their team, and they don't even know what to talk about. Like, okay, it's 6 months. I guess 6 months, they say you're supposed to have an evaluation meeting, and the person tells you, it's been 6 months. I think I deserve a raise. And you're like, well, they come to work on time. Maybe they deserve a raise. Do you get paid more because your team members came on time? No. Like, we need to link this to the right stuff. Did you guys see what I'm saying? So at the end of today, we're going to take all that guesswork out, right? And we're going to put you in a position where you're like, oh, you can connect You can connect the revenue to what they do. You can connect their tasks to how they solve and earn. You can make savvy decisions, who to hire, who not to hire, what strengths I want, what strengths I don't want, how I evaluate my people, how I know they're doing a good job, how I know I can afford to give them a raise, and all of that. Okay. So let me know in the chat if you're like, okay, Dr. Una, I'm with you. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And if you have no team, you are blessed beyond measure, for want of a better way to put it, because you can avoid all of these mistakes. The things I talk about them because I've done all of them. Okay. Like I took a lot of mistakes. I did a lot of mistakes just for you. Okay. So you can avoid them. Okay. Okay. Beautiful. And if you are your only team member, I want you to see yourself as the team, right? Because the habits you have, the way of thinking you have about the way you show up, like you're going to lead yourself, you're the boss of you, then that's going to reflect on how you lead your team when you do get a team, right? And it won't just be something you're reading from a book, it's something that you've done, okay? Now, what I want to do, because I want to make this very practical and I want you to see it in such a way, Dr. Vey is like ready for the goods. I want you to see it in such a way that you can never unsee it, never unsee it. So I'm going to use a few examples. We're going to play around with numbers. We're going to play around with some traditional roles in private practices, and this is going to be amazing. So the overarching concept is this, and if you don't get anything out of today, I want you to get this, okay? The whole idea behind creating your business is there was a problem you saw that you wanted to solve, okay? There's a people group you decided you wanted to serve. I want to serve these people. I want to take care of their problems. Great. Okay. Now, in order to run a business, I have to do this thing I want to do in a profitable way. So I'm going to serve people. I'm going to earn. This is what I'm going to do. So I started this business. These are the two things I'm going to do. Now, when I bring people on my team, right? If you think about a basketball team, they don't have separate agenda, right? The agenda is we're going to win this. We're going to win this game. We're going to put more balls into the basket than the other team. And we're all on the same page. No matter what you're doing, we're all on the same page. With your team, everybody needs to be on the same page. And everybody needs to be going towards the same goal. And what is the goal? To serve and earn. Okay, so your front desk person, their goal is not to answer the phone. Their goal is not to greet the people. Like, understand, like everybody has a role to play in this big thing. So we have to plug everybody in and know what their roles are and how it affects the bottom line, right? So if it's basketball, right, you have the person who's the guard, you have the person who's this, you have that. Everybody has a position, right? Okay. So that's the first concept. Your team is there to help you do what you're doing, not random tasks. When you have yourself doing stuff and you have them doing random stuff, at the end of the day, they're not going to help you do what you want to do. So you have more team members and you have more burnout, because not only are you doing all the things you were doing that made you want to hire somebody, you're also managing somebody else who's doing something that has nothing to do with where you're going. Okay, let me make sure you're getting this. So let me give you an example. Once upon a time in the summer, we had a slow day in my practice many years ago. And I said, hey guys, the schedule's not full and all of these things. It seems like we're going to have some downtime. What would you like to do with the downtime? And they're like, oh, I have some faxes that I was supposed to send that I haven't sent yet. And, I'm going to do some spring cleaning. And they're talking about all this stuff. I'm like, hello, can any of those things pay you? Like, are they gonna, I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, fine. You want to do spring cleaning? Awesome. But before you do spring cleaning, you're going to do some revenue generating activities. I said, okay. So all of you are going to go to the system and you're going to pull out a list of people who are overdue for well check appointments. And you're going to hit the phones and you're going to make appointments. And once you make 10 appointments, go spring clean away. Because again, if we make an assumption that my reimbursement per patient is $150, if they make 10 appointments, they have potentially generated $1,500 in revenue. So it was a slow day, but was it? Please let me know in the chat if you're getting this. That shift needs to happen, because your private practice you need to have a lean machine. your margins are high. Your overhead is high. Your profit margins are lower. You can't play that game. That's like it. The math needs to math. So make me 10 appointments, then go send your faxes and spring clean and all those things you're talking about. What are you talking? Who spring who? Who is that? Okay. It is so important that we think this way. Okay. Okay. So we're all on the same team. We're going to the same place. So even if it looked slow, it wasn't slow because we did revenue generating things. Okay. We got that? Okay. So that's the first concept. The second concept is every role, every single role must create a win-win-win situation. So in a lot of private practices, what happens is, we're now busy. We have a lot of patients. We're like, so we need a team. And so they hire 5 people, and the 5 people's jobs have like, there's no connection between what they do and the bottom line. And so the owner is the one bearing the weight of the responsibility of creating the payroll for everybody. If you have met a private practice owner who's doing this, it is a painful existence. Because once you stop, everything stops because nobody else knows how to pull their weight. Nobody else knows how to do anything. So you're bearing the whole weight. It's a lot. And there are people who are then like, they either quit, they try to throw away their practices and all this, like, they're like, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore. It's hard. Okay. So you're not going to do it this way. Okay. You're going to do it the new way we're going to talk about, the savvy way. Okay. All right. So every role must create a win-win-win situation. Please don't forget this. What does that mean? It means it's going to create the salary for that person. Their role should create their salary. You don't pay people from your 401k, or do you want to? You don't pay people from your savings, or do you want to? You pay them from what they generated. That's the way business works. Okay. So what they do must generate their salary, must generate the overhead associated with their role, must generate a profit for the practice. So when you have a team member, you can establish how they do this. You can hire them all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. Because you're not bearing the weight. You're not the only one bearing the weight for everybody in the practice. Okay. Let me know if you got it. There's a reason I'm taking my time with this. The rest of the stuff is going to go fast, but you got to get it. You got to get it. So this role, how are they going to pay for themselves? How are they going to pay for their overhead? How are they going to generate a profit for the practice? Everybody needs to win. For every role, everybody needs to win. So everybody's happy. Yes? Okay. All right. Beautiful. So win-win-win. So I want you to think about that. So what I want to do is I want to take the 3 traditional roles that we would see in a private practice, and I want us to use them to make examples, right? They're not going to be like as comprehensive. We'll do it the more comprehensive because we could spend an hour on each one, and we can do that in the movement, but I want you to see it. You can't unsee it. Like what we're doing now, you can't unsee it. And you'll be more savvy than most private practice owners you do, if you can just think this way, okay? All right, so let's pick 3 roles, okay? So the first role I want us to look at is the role of a medical assistant, okay? So type in the chat, what are some of the things that a medical assistant would do? So humor me, type in the chat, what are some of the things that a medical assistant would do in the practice? They would room patients, beautiful. What else would they do? What else would they do? What else would a medical assistant do? Or what else do your medical assistants do in your practice, in your practices? Okay, they schedule patients, get EKG. Okay, what else? Vaccines, yes, yes. Schedule surgeries, book appointments, vitals, okay? Okay, fantastic. Medical history, wonderful, okay? Collect copays, faxes, okay. Referrals, I like you guys. Orthostatics, repeat vitals, get med lists, okay? Okay, now, so those are the things they do. A lot of those are things they do to serve the patients. Now I want to show you how to think about it, okay? Now, if we want to put all of this in one bucket, it doesn't have to be in one bucket, but I want you to get this. Their job is to maintain the pace so you can see the number of patients you want to see, right? And why is this important? How many of you have worked with a medical assistant that was not competent? So because of that, you would typically see 20 patients, no problem, but the 20 felt like 40. Or maybe you even had to reduce your schedule because you were so slowed down. Dr. Nancy says, mercy, yes. Yeah, right? Dr. Scott says yes. Dr. Olubi says yes. This is important, okay? So the MA's job is, Dr. Scott said, and this is it. I spent time looking for the MA, right? Now, Dr. Scott, I want you to think about your hourly rate. And you spent time, think about spending 15 minutes, a quarter of your hourly rate, looking for your team member. That is an expensive exercise. Once you start seeing, you cannot see it, okay? Dr. Tino says it was a painful experience, okay? Okay. So their job is to maintain the pace so you, the highest earner, the person who pulls the most weight, can see the patients you need to see uninterrupted. So some of that has to do with their speed of doing what they do. Some of that has to do with anticipating what you need, right? Some of that has to do with, like whether it's forms they're filling or scheduling follow-up appointments, whatever. They're just doing all the things you don't do so you can see the number of patients you need to see. Okay, so let's do some math here. So let's say that you have this and if you've had this person, you are so blessed. You have this very competent MA that never allows you to be outside the exam room. She always has a room ready for you. The patients are ready. She's getting them out time. So Dr. Nancy, for you, when they're ready for their vaccines and stuff, she gives them their vaccines because an MA can keep a patient who needs a strep throat in one room and a patient who needs vaccines in another room, and you have no rooms to see patients. like it doesn't take much. But you have this person, and because of how competent they are, you can see 2 extra patients a day, and it feels lighter than when you saw 2 less. Let's do the math. Let's say, right, we've been using $150. Let's say $150 is what it is per patient, and you're able to see 2 extra a day. That's $300 a day times 260 working days a year. That is $78,000 your MA is responsible for. Okay. Who said wow? Type it in the chat. If you said wow, just type it in the chat. Let's make it official. $78,000 because you had a competent MA. Because you understood your job is to make sure that if there's a patient in the office, I am in the exam room. To make sure I'm not coming out of the exam room to say, oh, there's no tongue depressor here. There's no this there. I'm not coming out of the exam room to look for you. Like, I'm not doing that because you're on it and you're doing your job. $78,000 a year. That's only because you saw 2 more. We haven't picked anything else just because of that. Now let's flip it. If you have to reduce your schedule because you have an MA who's like, oh my goodness, we have too many patients. Or worse still, they tell people when they call that we don't have any openings. And you best believe those MAs exist, right? And they cost you 2 patients a day. That means they cost you $78,000 in a year, in addition to whatever you pay them as their salary. You're out more than 6 figures. Do you guys see what I'm saying? So when you're doing the evaluation, it's not, oh, does she come to work on time? No, it's like, yesterday, I had to come out of the exam room 5 times because there's no tongue depressor in that room. There are no gloves in that room. There's no, that's what had to happen. I looked for you 3 times. We had now you can have, now when it's time to train, you know what to train them on. What is the training? Keep me in the room. Move the pace, anticipate what I need. Train them. So Dr. Nancy or peds, train them on the vaccine schedule. So before I get in the room, order all the vaccines so I can look at it and say, okay, this is good. So once I talk with the patient, I'm like, these are the vaccines we're getting. You tell the MA, you can draw them up. So by the time I'm walking out the room, you're walking in the room to give them, boom, that room is cleared up. Let's go. Do you guys see what I'm saying? So your MA is a cost center. And so if they're only doing that, they're 78 grand, which could pay them. And that's not everything they do. That's just from 2 extra patients, right? So it can pay them, it could pay for overhead, it could create a profit for the practice. So who loves their MA now if they do this? Who's like, I love my MA. She keeps me in the room. She gets me an extra $78,000 a year. She's amazing, right? When you look at your payroll, you're not mad because it's not an expense anymore. It's an investment. It's not an expense anymore, right? So she's carrying her weight. You're carrying your weight. Everybody's happy. Okay, so that's the MA. All right. So let's look at another example. Okay, so MA, many offices have that. Next thing many offices have will be a front desk person. Okay, front desk person. What does your front desk person do? Type in the chat. What does your front desk, what do front desk people do? Type in the chat. Type in the chat. They check in patients. They schedule appointments. They collect dollars, right? Co-pays, deductibles, old balances, all of that. They verify insurance. Oh my goodness. Okay. Hi, Dr. Faison. They call to remind people of their appointments. Okay, so if you've attended my workshops before, you know that one of the things I say is your front desk person, like I want you to think about this, okay? If you have a practice that made, Dr. Tola says, help make a good impression for the clinic, yeah. If you have a practice that makes $3.2 million in a year, guess how much of that money your front desk person touched? All of it. They verified the insurance. They collected the copay. They collected the deductible. They collected the old balance. They touched all of it. So people say, oh, the girls in the front. I highly recommend, even if you don't call them that, I wouldn't call them that, but this is the way I would think about your front desk. They're the director of finance. They're touching all the money. They can prevent you from getting the money. Do you see what I mean? Just think, this director of finance, just treat them that way, train them that way. You know, you know what I mean? When you're following up with them to see what they're doing, do it that way, understanding that every dollar you make goes through them. Every. So they can mess it up so many different ways. You guys still here with me? Okay. All right. So let's say when you think about what your front desk person does, and there's more, you have that they collect all the copays. They're scheduling, maybe they're scheduling the follow-up appointments when people are leaving on their way out. They're the ones who answer the phones. Okay. I want to give some virtual hugs to some people. Who here has overheard their front desk person, or they've overheard, or a patient has told them that they called for an appointment and the front desk told them the next available appointment is, and gave them days out. Meanwhile, you had holes in your schedule that day and the day after that. Who needs a virtual hug? Who has had that experience? Dr. Tola's like, man, me. Yeah. And you're like, that's what I'm talking about, being on the same team. You're like, we have a schedule to fill. And somebody's calling and saying, I want to come in. And the person on my team, we're trying to do the same thing, is telling them, oh no, our next appointment is 2 weeks out. Right? Not on the same page. Not on the same page at all. Okay. So you, Dr. Olubi's like me, yeah, but we're working on this. Okay. So they're the ones who convert those calls to appointments. When someone says, my child has been having a fever for the last 5 days, and the front desk person takes a message and is giving you the message, why are they doing this? Is that not an appointment? Why are we having a conversation? This child has had a fever for 5 days. What do you think I'm going to do? Tell them to take Tylenol? Tell them, oh my goodness, we can fix that. You know, Dr. Una loves to make sure that her patients have access, you know, to be able to come in. I can get you in at 12 or 3 p.m. Which one works better for you? We need to take care of Johnny. That's what somebody on the same page with you will do. Why are you giving me the message? What am I going to do with it? Do you guys see what I'm saying? Okay, so when it comes to this person, I like, you know, let's play around with numbers here, okay? So let's say you had this front desk person who used to tell people, oh, we don't have any more appointments. but you had the meeting with them, right? Because you came, you attended this, you had the meeting with them. And so every day they're saying yes to 2 people, right? Now you remember the math from the MA, the 2 people gives you what? $78,000. Okay. Maybe this front desk person also used to be the person who told you, you're like, this patient's insurance is not active. What happened? I was too busy to verify. You're never too, this is like saying I'm too busy to breathe. You're never too busy to verify. Like, there's no point seeing the patient. You're never too busy, right? So let's say that person used to have an appointment a day where the insurance was not active. Like when you average it out, that's what it was. But you've had this conversation with her and this is not a thing anymore. Do you know what that is? That's an extra, I'm going to do the math here. That's an extra $39,000 that this person is do you guys sort of say what this person is responsible for, right? When you think about the co-pays and all of that stuff, it all adds up. So your front desk, if their job is not done right, they can cost you 6 figures per doctor. They can cost you 6 figures per doctor. Okay, so they have the capacity to generate revenue. They verify the insurance. They collect all the copays, the old balances, deductibles, all of those things. When people call on the phone and they want appointments, they're getting them in. The people are ready to leave. They're scheduling those follow-up appointments. That is how their role affects the bottom line. So when we put out an ad, we're not just saying, oh yeah, front desk person, we're practice 20 miles south of the ocean. No. We're saying these are the things you'll be responsible for. Collecting copays, doing this, doing that. And when it's time to have their meetings, their training meetings, you train them specifically on those things. When it's time to evaluate them, you evaluate them specifically on those things. So if there's a slow day, guess what they can do? Oh, there's a ton of old balances. I can pull up a report and start calling people and collecting money. They know to do that. Hey, when I answer the phone, I'm going to ask for, like, you call to ask about XYZ, but I also see you're overdue for your annual. Can we get you scheduled today? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so that person is creating a win-win-win situation. Okay, I think I beat that horse enough. If you're like, I got it, type I got it. I got it. So you're very clear now. This is how this role makes money. And the next one we're going to look at is going to be so fun. So who got it? Dr. Davis is like, I got it. Who else? Everybody else going to go home, or you got it too? I got it. Dr. Kemp says, the issue I have is that they give the patients a choice to see me or one of my nurses. Yeah, you can train them. That can be trained. That can totally be trained. And training plus accountability, and they'll adjust. Yeah, you can do that. Okay. Okay, I got a lot of people who got it. Wonderful. Okay. Now is one of my favorite. Okay, one of my favorite. Hi, Dr. Kaufman. One of my favorite is the office manager. Okay, now, chances are, other than the doctors, the office manager is earning the most, right? But I cannot tell you how many times the office manager is stuck with just looking at the office flow, doing the staff schedule, and then anything that is stressing out the doctor. Okay, I need you to do me a favor. Type in the chat. No, that's not what the office manager. No, not at all. Okay, so when you think about when you started practice and you're doing everything, right? Dr. Toy's like, no, no. Okay, when you start a practice, right? And you don't have a manager, for instance, you're doing 3 roles. You're the doctor, you're the manager, you're the owner. You're doing all 3. So when you get a manager, you need to train the person, get out of the way, so the person can take over the manager role. So what we do a lot of times, we hire this person, give them lower level tasks, and we stay the doctor, the manager, and the owner. Just that we're out whatever we pay the office manager as a salary. And we have to manage them too. Okay, so we're not going to do that anymore. When we get managers, we're savvy now. We're EntreMD docs. Like, we're savvy. Okay. When you have an office manager, the outcomes you want from them are the goals of the practice. Hear me. Okay. So let's say you're like 2025, my best year yet. Yay. Okay. And you're like 2025, let me do some quick math here. I want to see 20 patients. I want to see 20 patients a day, and there are 3 doctors in the office. So 20 times 3 is 60 times 260 working days. So we want to see 15,600 patients. Guess who has that goal now? Your office manager does. You're not telling us, make sure everybody's happy and the team is happy, they hire people. No. Goal number 1, 15,600 patients for 2025, right? Maybe you have another goal and you say, oh, our billing, man, we have to work on our billing. We have, like a lot of money in our over 90-day bucket, and we want to bring it to where 75 to 80%, let's say 75% of everything that is overdue falls in the 60 days and under. Whose goal does that become? The office manager. So number 1, 15,600 patients. Number 2, AR less than 60 days at 75%. Okay. Okay. Number 3, you decided we want to have 6 consistent referral sources, because if we have 6 consistent referral sources and they're sending us 5 patients each a month, that's 30 new patients a month. That's 360 new patients a year. So we want that, right? Whose goal is that? You guys get the trend now, right? That's the office manager's goal. Yes? Right? And you're like, oh man, we've had all kinds of staff turnover and all of those stuff. We have our attrition rate is, make up a number and we want it to be a new number. Whose goal is that? The office manager. So you then become the coach of the office manager, and the office manager now leads the team to get the result. So first of all, just let me know in the chat. I mean, you can use emojis if this is dramatic for you, but if you had an office manager who was on it as far as bringing in the patient volume, monitoring the billing team, taking care of your staff and your team, and maintaining a referral base, feel if somebody else was responsible for these metrics, how would you feel? Just let me know how you feel, because I'm excited for you. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Lighter. Yes, lighter, 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 lighter. Dr. Faisal is like, right? Dr. Olby, great. Okay. Now, are you going to get somebody off the street and you're going to do this? No, you're going to train them into it, but it's training that is worthwhile. It's worthwhile. Okay. So what does that mean? See, Dr. Faisal is like, oh, the things we could accomplish. Yes. Because now you have a true partner, true team member, this is the life. Okay. Okay. So what that means is, the strategies. This is why it's important for you to learn these things. You know what needs to be done to pull up the volume. You know the different roles different people play in it. Now, this person is the person, it's like the conductor of the orchestra, making sure that all these things are happening. So they follow up with the front desk to make sure they're working the recaller. They follow up with the MA to make sure before every patient leaves, they have a next appointment. Because that's what a manager does. They don't do the thing. They lead the people who do the thing. Now, they may have their own roles, but for the most part, they're managing people. For the billing team, then they can meet with the billers every week. Why is this number like this? Why are we having these denials here? What's going on here? And they're like, oh, it's the front desk staff. You're like, okay, let's go do a training for the front desk staff. So they're collecting the insurance, right? This and that. But you have this person who is troubleshooting and doing those things. For the referral base, you build the relationships. You tell them, okay, I've connected with the doctor. You connect with the office manager. Maintain that relationship. Make sure like every month there's something going from us to them. It could be a postcard. It could be a call to say thank you. It could be making sure that the notes from, that for the doctors who send us people, they're going back to them. All those kind of things. But they're the people running the ship. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, when you do that, you have a true office manager. You have true peace and quiet. You see what I'm saying? So you want to have a team where everybody's pulling their weight. So when you bring in a new doc, guess who's going to be doing the heavy lifting of filling the schedule for the new doc? The office manager. Okay, let's play around with some math. So let's say they didn't do anything all year long. All they did was you hired a new doc and they worked with the team to fill up that doc's schedule. Okay. So let's say that doc sees 20 patients a day For 260 working days, that's 5,000 patients, 5,200, 150 per encounter, $780,000. Your office manager did that. Okay. If you can't unsee all of these things, just say I can't unsee them. I can you like once you start thinking like this, you will love hiring people, you will hire people, you will hold your people accountable, you will train them, you will support them, knowing that this training is not a waste of time. The more I train them, the more I get my time back. Do you see how with this you're getting your time back because the people who are coming on board are actually taking things off your plate? Like, I'm so happy for you. You haven't even done it yet, right? you once you see it, you cannot see it. And once you start practicing it, my goodness, amazing. This is why you want to learn these skills so that you can train your people to do them. So when they're blowing hot air, you know, right? When they tell you that, you're like, no, Like, so for me, I've told you guys the story of how when I started, I was too afraid to hire anybody. So I did everything. So when the billers are telling me stories, I was like, you do know that I did this billing thing once upon a time. There's no truth to what you're saying. Right? Like, I'm like, can't fool me. But people are like, oh my goodness, I worked up this number of patients a day. It's too much. I was like, I used to see that number of patients and I worked them up and saw them. Make it make sense. Right? Okay. So when you think this way, like they're taking things off my, like every team member I bring on is taking things off my plate and they're creating a win-win-win situation. They win, the practice wins, me as a practice owner, I win. Everybody's winning. When you see this, then your practice goes from being this weight where you're carrying everything to becoming this thing where you carry your part, they carry their part. You make some money, they make some money. You're affecting the bottom line, they're affecting the bottom line. And as you hire, things become easier, not heavier. And this is what we do. This is what we do. And if you do this, it will change everything for you in your practice. Now, some of you may say, man, I'm not doing this and all of that. Remember, there are people who ran practices for 40 years and never learned this stuff. So whenever you're learning it, it's early. It's not common practice in medical practices. So it's fine. There's no problem here. This is a gift. Now you can see. And now you can do it. And it's amazing. Okay? Okay. All right. So type in the chat, it's a gift. It's a gift. We're not going to be mad about it. We're just going to start. Wherever we are, we start from there. You might like, this is a lot. That's fine. Start with the MA. What you're doing is you're building the reps of being able to lead a team like this. Start with the MA, start with the front desk. You have an office manager, do the office manager. Like start, okay? Start, awesome. Okay, all right, so these are the things that we've talked about, okay? So day one, we looked at how to fill your schedule because that's the starting point of profits. If you don't have any patients, there's no profit to be had, okay? Day two, we talked about how to get paid for the work you do, because the fact that your schedule is full and you're tired at the end of the day from seeing patients doesn't mean that you're going to get paid. Okay, so we talked about that. Day three, now we've talked about how to unlock the revenue generating capacity of your team, which is, now we're talking exponential stuff, right? Okay. What will happen if you implement this in your practice for 90 days? What do you think? Consistently, you're practicing these things for 90 days. What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen? You're doing the work to fill up your schedule. You're doing the work to get paid for what you do. And you're doing the work of unlocking the revenue generating ability of your team, right? It's growth. It's explosive growth. Dr. Vi put up the wow emoji. Dr. Bailey says like gloriousness. I'll just make up a whole word. Dr. Scott, more freedom. more freedom and more money, more freedom. Do you guys see why I'm excited for people in private practice? I'm like, yes, I know there are challenges, but there's so many things we can do. There's so much we can do. So much we can do. Okay. Now, today, when I was hosting a workshop earlier, I asked people, I said, what will stop you from implementing this? I was trying to see if I would get answers that were different from what I've heard over the years. And the answers are the same. There's fear. There's fear of failure, right? There's fear of failure. There's imposter syndrome. Leading a team. I've met many private practice owners that don't have meetings with their team members because they're like, who am I to tell them what to do? Right? So that comes up a lot. And I know because, like, again, I told you I've done all these things, right? People are like the fear of rejection, like talking to referral sources and all, but what if they say no, right? There's a fear of rejection. And it's like, okay, what is the next step? Like, what do I do next? What's the actual next step? Right? Okay. So we've known a lot of things to do that we haven't done. Now we know a lot more things to do. And what I want to give you guys is the gift of the things required for implementation. Okay. The more you stay with the information, like with pictures like this, you've seen things today that you can't unsee. The more you have those pictures in front of you, the more likely you are to do. The more aware you are of the strategy, the more likely you are to do. The more you have the gift of accountability, right? Many of you had meetings with billers, did all of those things, right? Is the gift of accountability. The more you have that, the more you'll do. The more you have a community of people who are doing the same thing, the more you will do. So for instance, in the profitable private practice movement, we had a doctor who's like, oh, last week I went out and I talked to 2 referral sources. Well, if you're in the movement with her, guess what you'll say? I mean, I heard that too, but I haven't gone. And she was scared and she went. Maybe I should go. Right? So when we were teenagers, they talked about, peer pressure, like, the bad version. So you're doing bad stuff like you wouldn't ordinarily do because you had people around you who were doing it. In the business world, we talk about positive peer pressure, where you see people implementing the same things that you're like, I don't know if I want to do that. And then you're like, I cannot be the only person who's not doing that. It's positive peer pressure. It's good for you. Right? Okay. So these are the things that you need. And these are the things that we built into the membership, into the movement, right? Where every week on Thursday, you're showing up to work on your practice, not in your practice. Okay. So some weeks it will be me doing strategy like we're doing now. Some weeks you're just coming to implement, like we're not talking today, we're doing. Okay. So let's do. And we come together and we do what we need to do for an hour, right? Some other weeks you have a mentor, somebody who is running a 7-figure practice, who is coming to teach on a specific thing that is working, right? And so that will be doctors like you guys met Dr. Karen Kaufman yesterday. It will be a doctor like her. Dr. Tolu did a session on converting your your current team into your dream team. It was wild. It was so good. Right? It was so good. But you get things like that, right? And these are the things that are required for you to win. Okay. So let me go over the areas of focus that we have. I really want to talk about that because what I want to do, I've shown you all week long since we started that you winning in private practice is possible. Like it's possible. It's possible. It's doable. Right. Okay. So areas of focus in the movement, what do we focus on? Number one, filling up your schedule, whether that is for you, whether that is for a new doctor, a new clinician you brought on. How do I fill this schedule, right? Dr. Karen Kaufman, she shared her story where she brought in a new doctor. I don't know if it was a month or 6 weeks, but it wasn't longer than that it took to fill up that schedule, right? And fill up the schedule because she knows what to do. She's aware. She knows what to do. Been there, done that. She has a number of t-shirts, right? Okay. So filling up your schedule. The second thing is your collection practices, getting paid for what you do. Okay. Getting paid for what you do. Every time I look into a private practice, the minimum I see being flushed down the drain is 6 figures, minimum, because there are practices that are just not in place, whether that's the way they code or that's the way they collect up front and all of those things. So much is left on the table, right? So much is left on the table. It's unbelievable. Okay. So that's number 2. Number 3 is this thing we're talking about, unlocking the revenue generation potential, because we looked at one MA, one front desk person, one office manager, and we're already talking $1 million, almost $1 million between them. You see what I'm saying? Like it's crazy. It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild. So think about that, right? And so you learn how to unlock that potential. Again, like Dr. Scott said, what it will then do for you is create more freedom, more time freedom, more financial freedom, which for every doctor, you already gave up more than 10 years of your life to become a physician. Okay? So I think you deserve some time freedom and some financial freedom. That's just my biased opinion. Okay? Okay. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is your revenue generation, is your revenue monitoring, your revenue cycle, understanding that, knowing how to lead that. When I meet with my biller, what do I do? What do I ask? What do I look for? Right? Because again, your biller touches all the money. So the era of I don't meet with my biller, I don't understand what those reports mean, all of that stuff is gone. We can't do that anymore. Right? Your billing department, a billing department can sink a practice. And the fifth is, okay, now we have these profits. What are we doing to convert it to wealth? So these are the things we don't focus on everything, right? So we have other programs where we focus on everything. We don't focus on everything, but these 5 things will set you up so you're not a statistic. You're a different kind of statistic. You're part of the doctors who are building private practices and they're profitable and you have a life. Every physician deserves that. Okay. Okay. Now, so that's with the movement. Okay. So EntreMD.com/movement. We talk about the investment. I like to say it's less than a cappuccino a day. It's ridiculous. It's $197 a month. It is absolutely ridiculous. Dr. Kaufman said it yesterday. She's like, just say yes, please, and thank you. Like, that's all you need to say to that. Now, if you're here and you're like, oh my goodness, this has been so much value, and you're thinking about the membership and the movement and you have hesitations, I want to talk about that because many years ago, actually, let me type this as I put this in here. Many years ago, I knew that I had to change the way I was doing things. I knew it had to change. See you tomorrow, Dr. Scott. It's going to be so fun. Tomorrow is my session, so we're going to have so much fun. And I knew that I had to change things. I had to learn some new skills and all of that. And I came across a speakers boot camp, a training program that they had. And I remember them talking about it and they said it was $43,000. I was, first of all, I was shocked. Like, did they lace it with gold? Like, what is happening here? Is this another medical school? What is wrong with these people? Right? Like, that was my reaction. And then after that, I got mad. I was like, this is insane. These guys are nuts. But all the things that happened. And, you know, I told my husband about it and he's like, well, you've only been there for 2 days and you've already experienced so many transformations. So why don't you just go for it? Right? And this was in 2017. And we still joke about it till today, that was the best $43,000 that we spent. I'm so grateful that I did it because the question becomes, what would have happened if I didn't? What would have happened? Right? Because I can trace so many things that have happened to just starting that journey. Okay. So I want to talk about the hesitation for a bit and then I'm going to let you guys go. Okay. So those of you who are like, you're ready, you know, EntreMD.com/movement, come join Dr. Johnson, Dr. Scott. We're all going to be there tomorrow. So first of all, let's talk about this. So there is hesitation. And sometimes the hesitation is, oh, you know, the investment, right? Oh, I have to invest in this thing and all of that. It's $197. If you take 3 of your girlfriends out and you guys go to a nice place for lunch, you will spend $197. And that's the truth. Right? If it was your son's 5th birthday, and I'm not saying this is the equivalent of your son's 5th birthday, you're going to spend a whole lot more than $197. If your front desk person misses 3 copays, that is more than $197. If they miss verifying 1 insurance, it's more than $197. Like, let's put this in perspective. It's $197, right? So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is, well, I don't know if this will really work with me. Okay, work for me. Okay, first of all, you're here. You've experienced this session. Did this session work for you? If this session worked for you, and yesterday worked for you, and Monday worked for you, and the EntreMD podcast worked for you, then clearly this will work for you. You see what I'm saying? And there's no contract. So if you do it for a month and you're like, I don't like it, guess what? You're out. You're out $197. And if you listen to the EntreMD podcast, you owe me more than $197. And if you were here for the session today, you owe me more than $197. So we're even, and you're good. Like, actually, not even. You still owe me, right? Right? Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So I'm unsure. There's no contract. You're good to go, right? So there is literally no risk. And sometimes when we think of doing things we've never done before, our brain comes up with all these things. There's literally no risk. I've had my friends call me and say, okay, but let's have a conversation. This is too much for $197. But I have a motive behind it. What is my motive? My motive is we need to rewrite the narrative for physicians who own private practices. We have to change the narrative. We have to change the narrative. We have to be the vision boards who show people what is possible. We don't have enough of those, so people can't believe it. We need to have enough. So if I'm winning, like my practice is winning, I haven't even been there in 3 years. Now, if I'm winning, people are like, oh, she's a unicorn. If the doctors in the EntreMD Business School are winning, they're like, oh, they're fellow unicorns. If we have 1,000 people, if we have 2,500 people, if we have 5,000 people winning, 10,000, then that's different. Then other people like you can see what they can't unsee. So that's why we call it a movement, right? And so I need to see people win. All right. So I want you to come into the movement on EntreMD.com/movement. I want you to tell your friends who have private practices, and you're like, guys, listen, it's $197. Let's not make this complicated. Okay. Let's not make this complicated at all. It's $197. If you listen to, let's say Dr. Funke is like, I'm in EBS and still see the movement as gold. Okay. So this is the deal. Okay. So EntreMD.com/movement. This is my gift to the physician community, the physicians who own private practices. Dr. Weiss says your course really should become part of every residency curriculum. If you know how to get me through the door, let's talk and let's get through the door. I'm all for it. But we have to change the narrative because it is so expensive for private practices to go out of practice for the owners. It is so expensive to close a practice. It is so demoralizing to close a practice. It is so bad for your team for you to close a practice for this because they have to go. It is so bad for your patients because now who are they going to go to? Right? And there's so many closing. There's so many owned by private equity closing. There are not enough places. The healthcare space needs people who are part of the Calvary, and that is you. So if you're like, I've arrived, I'm settled, I don't need anything and all that, that's fine. But if you are here and you need to win, EntreMD.com/movement, there is no risk. It's $197. It is no contract. Nada, no risk whatsoever. Okay. So I want to see you in, okay, EntreMD.com/movement. We have our first, well, for you, the first session tomorrow is going to be absolute game busters. We're going to talk about how to make data-driven decisions. It's going to be amazing. So go sign up. Oh, Dr. Nancy, thank you. She says that you're awesome. Thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow. And tell your colleagues, tell your friends, tell everybody who owns a private practice, like, I found the answer. Let's go there. Let's go win. The call is at 12 noon. It's at 12 noon on purpose. It is not in the evening because we want to rewrite this whole narrative of us working all day and then coming back home and working all night. We are going to work when we are at work. It's part of the curriculum. Learning how to work on your business at 12 noon every Thursday. Okay. All right. So I'm rooting for every single one of you. EntreMD.com/movement. Go sign up. Those of you who are already in the movement, I see you here. I will see you tomorrow at 12 noon. Okay. So we can continue this, but we are going to win. Okay. All right. Good night, everyone. See you at 12 noon.